Hey guys, welcome. We're here at Jerry's Man Cave, and we're going to talk a little bit of business because he is a financial advisor, right?
Yes,
And
I'm an accountant, financial advisor.
yeah, so we want to talk a little bit about business. You know, we do invest into stocks, and we do talk about different businesses and things of that sort. And we want to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship. Now, tell us, you had another business before as well that you were invested in.
Yes, yes. Well, I've always loved business, and part of the reason I love being an accountant is that I learn a little bit about flower shops, medical practices, construction, restaurants, and I just love business, and you learn a little bit about them, and with that kind of experience, it helps you not only if you ever want to do something, but when people come to you for advice, which they do as part of the planning and investing their hard-earned money, or should I do this, or I'm retiring from somewhere, can I use my retirement money to open up a business? They come and ask me those questions, and I try to be as conservative as possible, but I also understand the allure.
Right.
Business ownership is fun. It can be fun, but it has a lot of challenges. It's the ultimate risk.
So someone comes up to you and asks you, I have 50,000 to start a business. With that amount of money, what would your advice to them be? What kind of business? Since you do see into all these little businesses.
The best thing, the thing you need the most, other than a good idea and a sound plan, is capitalization. So it depends. If you're going to open up a small little place, maybe 50,000 is enough. But then again, I would look at, is that all your life savings? Because if it is, it's sort of like going to Vegas and
No.
and take that money
Or they have
risk
that.
it.
Let's say that they have that money to just. That's what I'm going to use. That
Then-
50,000, and if I need, I could throw in a little bit more
Sure.
or whatever. If that's.
The most boring thing anybody can think of is a budget, right? How much the money comes in? How much am I actually spending it? And it's actually a very scary thing too, because a lot of times when you see something in black and white, it's like, oh my God, I'm spending so much on eating out. I'm spending so much on cable. I'm spending so much on utilities. So you don't want to see it, so you avoid it. But that is the ultimate secret of success. If you know exactly where you stand, capital position, then you can make decisions like that. So I tell people, if you're opening up a restaurant and you're gonna do it with 50,000, you're not gonna last long. You need to have a strong capital foundation, whether your own savings or you have access to a line of credit at the bank or you have partners or something like that. Again, owning a business can be thrilling. I've owned a bar, I've owned a yogurt shop, I own a financial planning business. I'm a partner in several ventures. It's great when the planning stages are, because it's sort of like the chase.
Yes.
Then
right.
sometimes the catch, you don't want what you don't like what you catch. It's not a good result. So it depends on how well the planning is, and whether 50,000 is going to be enough. So I always ask, one, is that everything you have? Two, do you have access to other things? Because we all plan for success, but that's not always realistic. Maybe even not in the first year or two.
Yeah.
But would you give them advice on any business then, or would
Sure.
your advice would be?
Well, it always starts from a general point of view.
If you were asking me those questions, I would tell you yes. I have open lines with the bank. I have something else set aside.
Then I would ask if you've done a pro forma to make sure, have you measured what other type of businesses of that nature are in town, how well they've done, how long it took them to be successful, what kind of inroads can you have to get their market share. So it's the first question of many. And like a lot of what I do is not always going to be solved in one or two meetings. It's going to take a series of things, because that's how business is. There could be something around the corner, much like the stock market, that you think, oh my God, everything's going great. Then all of a sudden they catch the CEO in some sort of insider trading, and by tomorrow that stock is worth nothing.
Right.
So we need to be prepared for all.
What's the biggest pitfall you see of people coming and trying to open a business, or once they get that business going, what's the biggest pitfall that you see?
They think that because they know this particular industry. Oh, I know how to be the best chef in the world. I can do everything from appetizers to desserts. For example, I'm not picking on chefs. I'm just saying, as an example, they know that, but they don't have a lot of business experience. So, excuse me?
Yeah.
They don't have a lot of business experience, so that hurts them because they also say, well, I'm trying to cut corners, so I'm not necessarily going to invest in an accountant or an advisor or in doing research because I know what I'm doing, I know how to make it work. And they avoid a lot of the scenarios that could
Right.
come back and co-cop them.
And I think that's a pitfall of a lot of people because we were educated, say in medical school, we were educated to be doctors. We're not educated to run a business.
No.
And when we come out, if we go in solo practice like I've done, you're running a business right off the
Yes,
bat.
you are.
So you need the people around you to actually help you out to make sure that it's a sound business.
And also
plan.
that discipline, David. A lot of times it's like, oh, I'm my own boss, so I can do whatever I want.
Right.
Well, that's not necessarily the case. And many times, the first few years that I was in practice, I paid more to my staff than I would bring home because you need to build on that. I was given very good advice when I was starting out.
Right.
When I was starting out, I wanted to do everything that way. Everything that would come in, I would keep and take to the house. Obviously, that's the. But then somebody who's my mentor told me, well, okay, so that means you're answering the phones, and you're making copies, and you're taking stuff to the client. So you're actually doing the job of somebody you could be paying $10 an hour to, and what are you bringing home? So are you worth $10 an hour, or are you worth $100 an hour, or $50 an hour, or $150, whatever it is? I said, well, no, I don't want to earn $10 an hour,
Yeah.
And he says, then you need to invest in yourself, get a line of credit, go to the bank, put money to have some sort of capital to build. You don't have to have a full staff, but have people that are going to help you grow. That way you can be in front of the client, and that's how you make money, and that's how you're going to help the client. You're not going to help them by making them a copy.
So micromanaging or running everything yourself sometimes doesn't work very well.
It
You
does not.
really have to distribute the wealth and the
I know.
jobs.
Absolutely.
And that holds true even for my profession. I mean, you can't do it alone as a principal. You have to have good people around you.
Right.
Gilbert has always said, like, you do businesses with somebody that brings something to the table. What are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing? And you get those people.
Right.
So yeah, we hear this because we talk a lot about business with some of his friends that have businesses, and we hear this often.
The successful people are going to have a great team with them. And in my case, we're very blessed that when I started to become quote unquote more and more successful, it's because of the staff. And I say that not as a showing off or anything, because we're very blessed to have the people that we have working with us, because they're great at what they do and they allow me to do what I'm good at too. I'm terrible with technology, so I hired somebody to help me with technology. I can barely turn on a computer, but I know what to do with the numbers that come out of that computer, so I have somebody that helps me with that. So that's the thing I would recommend the most. Have a good sound position, learn to delegate and trust others, and then you're allowed to flourish with your talents.
Yeah. So I would think that a person definitely would have to save 6 months to a year's salary first.
Yes, yeah.
And in addition to what you're going to invest into your business, so that you can at least survive
Yes.
that first year.
So money in reserves is key.
That is a key. That is a key. Reserves, and if you're fortunate that your spouse is also
Right.
working and contributing money to the household, that helps as
Yeah,
well.
because you're gonna have those months, and those where
Absolutely.
you go through those trends where it's just terrible. So you have to sometimes you have to keep reinvesting if you believe in your product.
And you said a key word there, belief. I remember when, and I shared this story with you, David, the other day, when I first started and I moved from being in management at Laredo Federal Credit Union to opening on my own practice. I literally started just with my uncle as a client, because he had told me, as soon as you go on your own, he had a phone company. He installed phone wires and phone equipment. He says, I'll go with you. I said, okay, great, thank you, Tio, I appreciate that. So I started with that one client, and then realized, oh my God, what am I going to do now? So it was tough at the early onset, but I believed in what we were doing. And one day, it was right around the start of tax season, and we were barely getting by. And at that point, it was just me and a part-timer. So I opened up the front door of an old office where we were at. Now that old office used to be a tortilla factory. It also used to be a funeral home. So I opened up the door. I was driving in. I saw 3 ladies in the front door. I said, oh my God, it's going to be a good day. They're probably from the neighborhood. They want to do their taxes. That's a good start. So I opened the front door and I said, welcome, how can I help you? And the lady says, she said in Spanish, but yes, how much do you sell the masa for tamales? She thought it was still a tortilla factory.
You hadn't painted the wall?
No. So I almost ran out, bought some masa and resold it. But I wanted to cry at that time. I was like, oh my God. But I can laugh about it now. But again, it's about the belief. And I knew that we were doing things right. And we had that capital position to fall back on, that it would take time, and we were able to build on that. And that, a lot of times the best advice I can give to my clients or somebody just coming in for the first time is my own experiences, and whether it's been my experiences as a business owner, as a struggling business owner, as somebody who invests in the market or who invests in financial products. That's the best advice I can give, because it's coming from a place of knowledge.
Let me ask you a question, and if you don't mind me asking. This is a lot of friends that want to open up bars. Since you've had a bar before, what are some of? I know that it's such a tough business.
It's a very tough.
It's very
business.
trendy.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you can give? For those wanting to go into that industry.
To have a lot of patience.
Okay.
To actually trust whoever is working there, and actually to be there all the time. Like at a restaurant, the owner has to be there all the time. My experience at the bar, and I'll share this, it was me and another accountant, Louis Lopez. We had this dream really since we were kids in high school. They said, we want to open up a bar. We always like beer and we love sports. So we said there has to be a way to combine the thing. So we opened up the Cold Brew back in 98. And initially, it's like anything else. People started to come because they liked the concept. They liked that the beer was cold. It lived up to its name, the Cold Brew. We were the only ones at the time that had DirecTV. So we literally on Sundays, we had a little group that would come see the Bears, a little group that would go see the Steelers, the Dolphins, etc. It was great. And the Niners, and of course the Cowboys were the main ones. But we had groups, and it was fun, and it was exciting. And then other businesses copied the idea. They had deeper pockets. This was just a mom and pop place, or in this case, 2 friends. And they started opening up their own place with more money, more now music, live music, stuff like that. So it became very hard to compete.
Okay.
So, but the thing is, we were there all the time. And the reason we sold was we couldn't be there now anymore because we had young kids and we had families, our own families to go to. So I say that because that's when we sold. And we sold at a time where, we were struggling a little bit, because of the competition and stuff like that. We sold to a gentleman that had just retired from the railway. Then he sold to somebody else, and they sold to somebody else. And it's a funny story. I go back now several years later. My nephew is playing drums for a rock band that is playing there. So I had not been back to the Cold Brew since we had sold it. So I go to see my nephew, and excited to do so because he's a great drummer. And somebody recognized me and took me to the owner, who I had never met. And he says, hey, this is Sanchez. He was one of the 2 partners that opened up the Cold Brew. Blah, blah. He says, oh man, that's great. Let me take you to my wife who's in the back. The wife was in the back working on numbers and stuff like that. So she had her head down. the owner comes up with me and says, "Oh, honey, this is Jerry Sanchez. He's one of the original owners." She looks up, says, "You want to buy it back?" And then she just gets her head back down and keeps on riding. So that answers your question.
Right,
It's a
right.
tough business.
Talk to me a little bit about the taxes, though. There's a lot of taxes involved, right?
There's not only the sales taxes that is common with every business, but the liquor taxes. The liquor taxes at that time were 14%.
Okay.
And so you had that combination, and yet you struggling to price points because, again, your competition has deeper pockets, or they have money from a restaurant or food that they offer. For a bar to make it is tough because not only do you have to keep your price points at a certain level, because if you go too high you won't make it. But then if you price too low with the sales tax and the liquor tax,
You won't get anything out of it.
you won't get anything out.
And you know that I found out that advice holds true not only for bars, but it holds true for other businesses that, well, you're going to open a store, you're going to open even like what we were talking about, the store that we're talking about.
Right.
You have to be there all the time.
Yes, sir.
Any time that you're selling something, you have to keep your eye on that inventory. You have to keep your eye on everything. I mean, you have to be there at all times.
We would go every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at lunchtime. Have our lunch there at the bar to make sure that we were the one counting inventory. We were the one trying to, and we were two accountants.
Right.
And even then it was tough.
Yeah.
Now let me fast forward. Not a bar, but a yogurt place. I was a partner in a yogurt franchise in Eagle Pass. And when it was being run by a family member of one of my partners, it was doing great. It was doing awesome. It was right at the start of the frozen yogurt phase, and Eagle Pass just loved it. So we said, well, let's go to Del Rio. So we go to Del Rio, but it was run by a non-family member. And Del Rio, it was a very different market than Eagle Pass, even though it's only about an hour and a half north of there. Very different. That never took off. And then the family member left the Eagle Pass one, so both locations were stealing us blind.
Wow.
And again, it goes back to you have to be there, and if you can't be there, you have to trust the one that is there. Because we heard stories there that they were giving stuff away, family members here, or a barter, the old-fashioned barter system. Hey, bring me that, and you'll get everything for you and your family. And again, there's so many risks in business. It's fun, but it's the ultimate gamble.
And those businesses, if you don't want to be at the business 24/7, I mean, it's very difficult. If that's what you want to do, you want to be at a bar all day long and stuff, I guess it would be good. But if you don't really want to be there, you have to keep track of everything.
Think about the restaurants that we love to visit, local restaurants. The successful ones are the ones where the owner is always there. Always there.
Los Acales. Ooh.
Emperor Garden, Mike Wong is one of my good friends. Said, why don't you just keep owning it and have somebody else run it for you? They'll steal me blind. I need to be here
true.
all the time.
And there's businesses that you don't need to be there 24 hours a day, always. And
But I know what I'm saying. If you have inventory, I've seen so much here in Laredo, and it's not a Laredo problem. It's just a business problem.
That's a problem.
There's so much inventory that you really have to keep track of it. I mean,
But
there's
I'm talking about businesses. Yeah, for inventory things, you do have to have people there. Real estate, maybe not so much.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So different things that you invest into
Yeah.
that can. So I think everybody can find a business that they can be comfortable with. Maybe somebody that has more of a family life has to.
Yeah,
have a different
I
type of
certainly
business.
don't want to dissuade anybody.
Right.
It's great.
Just devil's advocate.
Exactly, and you have to be very careful, and you have to not take things for granted.
and it's good for people to hear that, because a lot of people say, I'll open up.
It's very easy to quit. Most businesses close within 3 months.
Yeah.
That's not trying. That's just they ran out of capital,
Yeah.
and they got frustrated. And so proper planning helps to prevent that.
Exactly.
And again, everything takes time to take off. It just needs to be done a certain way.
All right, Jerry. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us about this.
Oh, I've
lesson.
enjoyed it. Thank you, guys.
And we enjoy it, and we're going to try to do one more video about something else right now and see how we do with that as well.
Great.
All
Look
right,
forward
man.
to it. Thank you.
Thanks.